so much for meeting with me and just letting me know what happened. I just want to know the story of what happened and what the search was. And
I'll defer to Jeremy. I think he was the initial responder on that date. He can give you the date and time and when we responded and how we responded and started the initial searches. So,
yeah, on September 28th, 2013, we got the call at 20 to 6 in the evening of a presumably missing, overdue hiker. He was with his reporting party, his partner, and they were looking for a cave. They'd never been to the area before and decided to go explore it and see if they could find that cave. They entered the lava beds in presumably one of the worst storms we had within the county. Rain, sleet, wind, trees blown over. Eventually turned to snow in that area. They hiked into the lava beds only a few minutes, decided to separate to look for the cave entrance, and that was the last that they saw of each other. Our reporting party made it back out to the road, waited for his partner, couldn't find him, couldn't see him, went back in to where he last saw him, called for him, yelled for him, went back out to their truck where they parked, left notes. No sign of him. Didn't hear from him. Waited around several minutes in both the campground at Goose Lake as well as at the truck. No response. And then finally made the 911 call for us.
so the area that you searched was just southeast of Goose Lake there?
Initially, yeah. That was our initial hasty search, if you will, area. Typical with any SAR mission, we have a last known point or a last known position of whoever's lost or missing or overdue, and we try to check that area out pretty extensively, see if we can locate the person or any clue of where the person had gone, and then from there the search expanded.
Did you find anything?
There was nothing reported back. No, you would think, a typical wooded search, you're going to find broken branches or footprint. This is different. It's lava bed, it's lava rock, so you're not going to see a lot of sign of anything. You think you see a disturbed rock, but that could have fallen from just the storm. There was no indication where he'd gone, which direction, or what happened.
What were the unusual factors in this missing person?
Different from any other is unusual that how quickly they become separated and unable to communicate with each other seemingly. So having that dampening effect that the lava beds presented, I think presented a lot of challenges. Was he calling for help and his partner couldn't hear him, or was he not hearing his partner's cries, for where he was? That was certainly a difficult obstacle to overcome and try to move forth and figure out what happened.
All right, and what was involved in the search? How many people? How long did it take?
We did an initial week-long, 7-day mission. We staged our operations out of Goose Lake parking lot. We had roughly 33 different search organizations, which comprised of anywhere from a dozen to 2-3 dozen searchers per team. So several hundred people were involved, thousands of man hours, just expanding from our initial search location each day deeper into the lava beds, trying to come up with any kind of clues or anything. Additionally, we had several helicopters flying the area looking for anything that would stand out we could send search teams to.
we actually used pararescue in this as well from the United States Air Force due to the terrain being so rugged. A lot of the search teams are prepared to weather certain storms out or different terrains. But this was so treacherous, we actually called the military in to search some of the more hazardous identified areas, again with no luck. There's a lot of things that made this unusual. Was the time frame that they were separated, again the dampening effect possibly, and then no sign. After a week of searching, if with the weather that we had, it was cold. Someone that's normally hypothermic will start potentially shedding clothes, dropping packs, losing shoes, and we didn't see any of that. It was really unusual. But again, the weather was a huge factor initially. We had resources pulled different directions for other search missions as well. And then there's other factors to think about too, Nakia. With having two persons that were hiking, and only one comes out. The suspicious mind always starts to kick in. And you think, well, was there something else in play here? Was there some other motivation or criminal element, or did they get into an argument? Is there history here? Is there, we start to think that direction as well. So in this case, we actually did send detectives up to interview the family, as well as the hiking partner. He was interviewed, numerous times. We did some truth verification procedures, which he passed every time. So there's no indication of some sort of foul play or something devious had happened, which was good, I guess, in that sense, but still trying to get answers for the family. How does someone enter the lava beds and vanish? That's what we were dealing with. Just unusual not to find a trace or something, some direction to follow.
What was he wearing? Is there anything
that hampered us a little bit? It was dark clothing, my understanding. Dark backpack.
You think it's fall time, up this particular area in the elevation, in lower elevations is probably still some foliage on the trees, but up there it's already starting to, all the leaves have fallen pretty much. It's the end of September. He's wearing a black jacket, khaki pants, dark backpack, and all that stuff tends to blend in very well with everything on the forest floor.
Similar in color. And we didn't stop after the 7 day. I know we went up there several times in the summertime when the weather improved and we could get more searchers there. And anytime we received additional information from other search entities or other organizations, said, well, maybe we saw something here or something indicated there, we'd go search that as well. And again, there was, and to this date, we're talking 3-4 years now, and there's still nothing.
Wow.
Very, very unusual.
He was wearing a bicycle, or he had a bicycle helmet for caving with him, is that right? A white bicycle helmet?
I'm not sure on the color. I believe it might have been a darker color, but typically he and his partner wore helmets when they were in looking for caves because they knew the hazards apparently, and so he was supposedly wearing his helmet when they were out there.
What's unusual about this terrain? What are some of the hazards that, I think you touched on this, but there's really unique hazards to this terrain?
There are, John.
Yeah, it's lava. It's just a field of lava, and it's a very fractured, broken landscape. It's fairly heavy wooded in a lot of areas. There are some open areas that are just basically rubble piles where nothing can grow. There are cracks, we call them ruts. You could be stepping over an 18-inch hole and you look down and get vertigo because it's 30 feet deep. And there's little caves and nooks and crannies and cliff faces and pressure ridges, and it's just a jumbled mess. And so it's filled with all kinds of features, but overall it kind of presents a featureless landscape in terms of orientation where you're at, because it just looks the same any way you look for as long as you can see. And once you get out there, there are reports of compasses not working. I haven't had that experience, but even with GPS, it's real easy to get off track, and it's real easy to slip and have something bad happen. We've had other people missing out there, and it's a very, very challenging terrain. Even the pararescue guys, when they got back off their assignments, were a little bit beat up. and it just chews up searchers too. You go a mile and it takes a couple hours because it's just that much scrambling and things like that. It's very, very challenging.
And really, even the locals kind of avoid it. Hunting season,
Yeah, nobody goes
they
in there.
they won't go in.
It's not something for the ill-prepared by any means.
And it's about it's roughly a vertical diamond shape, about 9 miles wide at the widest point, and around 16 miles long. And there aren't any roads or trails out there. There's one small road down toward the southern end, and there's sort of a trail along the perimeter here, but you're just on your own in terms of the route you take. It's often dictated just by the landscape.
What would be a good area for me to start searching if you had a recommendation?
I guess somewhere around the last known point, although that has been so saturated, it's a very odd thing. And you'd have to really, really be careful when you go out there because it's a very challenging landscape. I would not recommend going by yourself. And I'm a kind of guy who likes to go by myself. And I've done by myself out there, but it can be pretty frisky. But yeah, I'm guessing just somewhere up in here. The nice thing, which is one of the confounding things, is it's this loop of road. The last known point was right at the bottom, if you will, the center of that, and you're not very far from that road on three sides. And yeah, it's just a very
If you
strange
continue
thing.
deeper into the
Then
beds,
all bets
then,
are off.
Yeah,
There's nothing
spin
there but
your
trouble.
wheels.
Yeah, I kind of suspect that because it's just a maze that, and although if you got hypothermic, anywhere.
Right.
You can be anywhere.
I'll give you an example of
But we can get you a map too,
Yeah.
Nikia, that shows, the area in here if you wanted to
Okay.
venture in. But again, I would go with someone, make sure someone knows where you are, when you're supposed to be out, just because of the terrain and the area.
We had another search several years ago, and the family was there, and the brothers were kind of hiking folks, and they wanted to go in and check this crater, and I was assigned to take them in. And it's about 1.5 miles, maybe 2 miles, and I said, be prepared for at least a 6-hour hike. And they laughed at me. And we went in there and searched, and we came out over 8 hours later. And so it just takes a long time to get anywhere out there.
How many people would you say have gone missing in this area over the years that you know of?
One guy may be out here, but maybe up there we didn't find.
And we found his vehicle.
Yeah,
Right?
on the 240 road.
Right.
And then there was, years ago, a beargrass picker on the southwest side that went missing in a blizzard. It was raining and it turned to snow, and it snowed for a week.
We found some remains, didn't we?
The next year, yeah. And then we had, the only guy I've ever heard of that went elk hunting out there, we had to help get him back out. And I was down on this side. And those are the only ones.
Yeah, aside from
I can
Zitzewitz
think
that
of.
I can think of.
Yeah. People just don't go there.